Hogstye.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Hogstye. It is an exciting day. It is the start of free agency as Washington looks to build up a team better than Philadelphia. Let's be honest. That's the goal now, folks. It's no longer let's get this team to being like a 500 team. It's let's try and be the best.
Well, I
We
would argue it's also maintain where they came from.
also maintain where they
Maintain
came
what
from is
happened.
true.
Yeah.
Maintain and improve. A lot of trades to talk about.
It's kind of like football Christmas.
Yeah. Happy Christmas,
That's
everybody.
true. This is this is actually one of my favorite times of year right here, where people are like, "Oh, well, I could, I started getting withdrawal from football, don't know what to do with myself." What are you talking about? It's one of the
Mhm.
this part of this is probably the best time of the year right here, and then you lead into the draft. It's usually right around July-ish into August, where it just really kind of tails off a bit.
Well,
Yeah,
the
for
NFL
me
has a
anyway.
master strategy with this. If anybody
Absolutely.
doesn't realize this, I mean, they've strategically planned out various events throughout the offseason to keep people interested. They're actually really smart about it. They need to find something for June. That's
Yeah.
the only real month that is just totally dead.
Right.
Yeah, because of course the end of next month is the draft, and that's a big one.
And you got
Uh,
OTAs after that, and that's
yeah.
one. And then, but it kind of tailors off for about a month.
I mean, no one's going to believe me, but I still think if they aligned themselves with the spring football and said, we're going to put some players in here, that would get people's attention there and keep them in.
You just are incapable of giving up the dream of minor league football.
I am incapable of that.
You're the one fan out there, and you live for it.
Hey, you know what? We got some good kickers out of it already.
I was
It's
just
funny
gonna
you say
say.
that. So I
was
wrote
just
a
gonna
little.
say. Yep.
My column for Monday was a little weekend wrap up of free agency, and I covered Zane Gonzalez. They re-signed Zane Gonzalez. The last line said Washington, something like Washington probably signing a kickers competition, and I'm sure Alex Zeese has some names for some unknown minor league kickers nobody's ever heard of. But him.
I don't right now, but I will by
I don't
training
believe
camp.
you. You have to have names in your head. I don't believe you.
I don't have them at the moment. I don't know who's even in the spring league as a kicker right now. I haven't looked. So
Is there a spring league right now?
yeah,
What is it?
it's the UFL, the United
That
Football
still
League.
exists?
Yep,
Yeah.
yep. They're going to year 4, I think. So
Are more than 10 people watching it?
more, yes. Many more, no.
See, there you go.
Actually, from what I understand, it's got a pretty decent following. I think it's going to
like
be something that's going
100?
to hang around for a while. Huh?
Like 100
No,
people, maybe?
no, closer to 150, but
Yeah.
See, there you go.
They have one franchise that does well in St. Louis. They get like 30,000 fans a game. That's
What
about
was the league that credentialed us in 5 minutes just based on one
Arena
little
Football
email
League.
I sent
That was
out?
the Arena Football League. Yeah.
I mean, I'm glad they
but-
credentialed us, but that was the least amount of effort I've ever had to go through to get us credentialed for anything.
Right.
I literally sent one email and I got
You're willing to talk to me? Okay.
Yeah, exactly. And Alex was the only one there who cared.
Yeah, it was very. Yep. All right. Well, we got a lot to talk about. Obviously, when we last did the show, there was talk about John Allen being shopped. John Allen got released before the start of free agency here. Very unfortunate for, good guy, good team leader, but he had 8 seasons here through probably one of the worst stints in Washington football history, not just on the field but off the field. And now he's gone. He's moved on. He's with the Vikings. He signed a similar contract, didn't he? It was around $20 million a year.
Yeah, roughly.
Yeah, about that. Yeah.
So, I think he was actually valued kind of right, is what that tells me. But he's gone now. Good luck to him in Minnesota. I'm not going to root against the guy who just gave everything he had here. Other guys who are now gone and signed to other teams. Benjamin St. Juste went to the Chargers. No big loss. Jeremy Chin to the Raiders for 2 years, 18 or 16 million. 16 million.
16.
Yeah. And that one's a real loss because he was probably our best defender in some weeks. And then the shocking one to me, Diami Brown signing with the Jaguars for $10 million.
I don't care. He signed for the Jaguars. I am amazed that they paid him $10 million to do it.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I think that's what he's talking about for 10 million.
Yes.
It's a bit high.
Yeah. Very,
It
very
is.
little bit high. I mean, good for you. Like, take the money, right? Someone
Yeah,
offers me
right.
$10 million to go play for the Jaguars. I guess I'd do it.
I mean, I turned down an offer like that.
Yeah.
What, you
Yeah.
don't believe me?
No,
But
I don't.
yours was with the Jaguar company that just like made you get chased by Jaguars. Not even the car company. It's a weird business model that just put lawyers in a jungle and have Jaguars chase them.
I think that wouldn't go well for the lawyers.
No, but the ratings would be outstanding.
Oh, they're going to broadcast it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, actually, isn't Jacksonville more known for the Cougars around the area? You could be
That
chased by
would be
Cougars every
equally,
day.
it would be equally bad.
It wouldn't go
Either one
well.
would go well. Yeah.
So those guys are all gone. I think it's fair to say the only one I'm disappointed in with is Jeremy Chin. That's a guy I'd hope they'd bring back.
I mean, $16 million though.
Well, actually, when we get into the signings, there was some stats shared for the guy that we wound up getting in safety that actually made me feel okay about us losing Chin and getting this guy at a cheaper price. But we'll cover that when we get to it.
Yeah, we'll talk about that because they did
Yeah.
sign a safety to replace him. You're right. For half the price. All right. So, but let me give the guys who did sign to come back. We mentioned Zane Gonzalez. He's back. I assume that's just competition. Like you're not going to go into the season with him as your starting kicker.
Well, he's not competition. He is the only kicker on the roster currently.
Well, I'm assuming eventually someone else will be brought in.
Yeah, presumably.
Yeah, is what I meant. Yeah, Bobby Wagner's back. That's a good team leader. Bring him back. I get it. John Bates is back. Mariota's back. Tress Way has returned for another season. And I didn't have it on my list, but Zach Ertz resigned, right? He's
Yes,
back.
Zach Ertz resigned.
All right.
And we also re-signed a corner like Kayvon. I forget the name exactly, but he was more of a special teams guy for us.
Oh,
I'd
okay.
never heard of his name until today, so he definitely was very deep on our roster. It said we re-signed him. I don't recall even having him, but
Okay.
I
All right,
guess
I
sure.
think that covers the re-signings.
Yeah.
Now we get to the fun parts, which are the signings of Javon Kinlaw to replace Jonathan Allen. He got a 3-year deal. Will Harris, who we mentioned from the Saints. The nose tackle Eddie Goldman, local guy. He's a legit nose tackle, like really big, just put him over the center type.
Mhm.
Signs cornerback Jonathan Jones and Dietrich Wise, another defensive lineman. So 3 defensive linemen, which is a little surprising because none of them are really defensive ends.
No.
They're just fat guys.
Yeah, just
Yep.
fat guys. And I'm not against just fat guys. You need fat guys.
I would think of all people like fat guys.
Yeah.
I think Peters is determined not to allow teams to run up the gut with ease this year.
Maybe so. I mean, it definitely looks that way. So those are the signings. Do we want to stop and talk about these? And Steve, you had some numbers you want to give, or do we want to talk about the big trade?
So I've gotten as many
Contracts.
contract data as I can. I'm missing a bunch. Did you mention Eddie Goldman? You said I'm missing Eddie Goldman. I'm missing Dietrich Wise. I'm missing Jonathan Jones. Missing Will Harris, the safety. Missing John Bates. And I think I have all the rest of it. Okay, so excuse me. So where we are right now, overall, is Washington's down to about 35 million or so in free cap space minus the few that I don't have, and so we're going to subtract and there's going to be some more come off from the rule of 51 out of that, and so we'll give it roughly 30 million ish. Now that does not include rather the draft picks. So if you throw the draft picks into this, which I always do, they're at 31 million. So subtract 4 or 5 million from that. So they're somewhere in the mid to high 20s. And so you got to figure they're not going to want to go below 10 to 12 million or so
Right.
overall. Now this is under the rule of 51, mind you, of course. So the 53 is going to a little bit more, and so you got to figure they're done signing big names. They need to sign a bunch more, to fill out the 90-man roster, but
Right.
they've got like 10 million ish or so comfortably before they would probably start thinking about not doing it anymore. And so that's kind of salary cap. And I'll once we go through player by player, I'll throw some numbers out when we, individually when we get there.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, the other thing is total number of players on roster right now. If I could go down to
we
my
still have a
chart.
ways to go to even get to
Oh yeah,
53.
yeah. It's either 60 or 60. No. We've got 60 right now.
Well, but I'm assuming I'm kind of doing the math in my head of who's probably just a practice squad or camp fodder guy.
Well, there are 60 players on the roster right now. The off-season rules
Right.
are 90, and the practice squad starts when the regular season starts, and so they've got 30 players to go for the 90-man roster. So say if how many draft picks I have, 6 or 7, and so
Mm-hmm.
they're going to have to sign a bunch more, and they will save like 10 or 11 of those spots probably for the free agency for the undrafted free agents.
Right. All right. So let's talk about some of these guys they did sign here. Kinlaw comes from San Francisco, so it's kind of Adam Peters bringing in someone he knows. Uh, I was surprised by how big of a contract they gave him, 3 years, 45
Yeah.
million, for
So
a guy who's
yeah,
historically a rotational guy.
yeah, I don't get it. 3 years, 45 million, 15, 30 million guaranteed at signing. They gave this guy a contract that's starter worthy. And between all these players they've signed to the defensive line, they're basically without having the other two new contracts I don't have here,
Mm-hmm.
they are not quite back up to where they were before Allen, but they're getting really close. I had to change a spot here. They're at 16, but they're like 5% below where they were. So through the other next two guys, they're getting they're not there, but they're almost there in terms of cap usage.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, and I guess there is something to be said. One guy for a price tag versus three or four. You know.
Well, that's what they're did. That's the thought. I
Yeah.
don't know, but you guys may know more about him than me. I don't understand Javon Kinlaw. He's
Well,
he's not known as a run defender.
No.
I
No.
don't know
He's
why you'd sign a guy like this.
well. I think he's bigger, which is I think a big part of it. You know, he's probably
He's a
20
big
pounds
dude,
heavier than
sure.
Allen at least. Uh, and I think they're trying to add just more mass to the defensive line in
I
general,
mean,
from
they've
what I'm
got him
seeing.
listed at 6'5", 319. That's his
yeah.
size.
Yeah.
Big dude.
Well, right now, I think I think Peters is just playing off of what his scouting report was, as I have right here. You know, he's the he's what they call a menacing bull rusher. Forcefully charged, requires two blockers. Basically, he's a guy who takes up space. He manages double team blocks more often than not. He's a guy who's very effective against the pass rush, and he's excellent against the run. Only problem was year 4 now he's in the league for, right?
Yeah.
He is
Year
drafted to.
5.
Year 5, and he hasn't been that great against the run, and he's been okay against the pass rush. So
Right.
right now, the salary he got's almost like as if he's been living up to his draft
Yeah.
status, which he has not. So, which is where I've been. That's where I find it weird myself too. I'm not
Yeah, I,
sure.
yeah, I
I
would.
mean,
He's first round. He's a first round pick. That's a bust.
yeah, right,
And you're right. They're paying him though he's not a bust, and they're
yeah,
paying him at starter level, really.
right.
Which is more disturbing. I mean, so
I mean, unless there's something schematically where Dan Quinn said I need him, he hasn't worked in these other schemes because he hasn't been in my scheme, and I can do something with them. Maybe that conversation was had. I have no idea.
Yeah, I don't. It's not clear to me either what they're
Yeah,
kind of. Here's what I'm seeing right now. You've signed a very heavy left defensive tackle or defensive tackle. You've signed a nose tackle, and Dietrich Wise is like a 3-4 defensive end, right? There's no speed rusher in that group that
no,
we're talking about. Um, I think it's interesting. It looks like they're trying to build a very different look on the defense for next year.
Seems to
Uh,
not include stopping the run.
yeah, I mean, I don't think they're going to a 3-4, obviously, but this is
No,
looking more unique from what they've been.
I mean, he proved us wrong, Adam Peters, with some of the picks last year. Like nobody thought
Sure.
Jeremy Chin would be worth anything other than average. There were a couple others.
Yeah.
So you can't just discount him, but I really do question this pick. I mean, to me, that's the number one problem on the defense. And none of these guys seem to be. I mean, John Kinlaw's he's got a $7.5 million cap hit. He's going to start or at least
Yeah.
play a lot.
Yeah.
And
I worry more about the fact that in his past career, he's rarely completed a full season. Last year was the first time he ever
yep,
played all 17 games.
yeah,
That's a lot of
questionable.
money for a guy who gets hurt.
Because I know somebody was mentioned before. These defensive line being brought in. That looks like Dan Quinn wants to go back to the kind of defense he ran in Seattle, which is more of a cover 3-4-3 base. And it's but the problem is that you're like you said, Alex, you have a 3-4 defensive lineman in the mix right there. These nose tackles aren't built to be 4-3 defensive linemen. You can't kick them to the outside edge. So I'm not even sure where someone even gets that idea that he's trying to go back to what try to run form a defense did in Seattle, because from what I read on that defense was, and I recall what kind of defensive lineman they had back then, guys like Kinlaw doesn't really match that. Well, not Kinlaw, I'm sorry. Wise that they brought in today doesn't really match that. So I don't know.
Yep. All
Well,
right.
I mean, he does match some of what he did with Dallas, where he liked to
Sure.
have, the pass rushing defensive end on one side and pass rushing linebacker on the other side.
Right.
And so he matches that into
Yeah.
that kind of scheme. Um, yeah, it is going to be weird to see. Here's my question: you just signed two interior defensive linemen. Uh, I'm assuming you have, the guy they drafted last year that they're still high on. Where does this put Deron Payne in that mix?
Well, look, he's got a $26 million cap hit, so he's starting no matter what.
I mean, unless they can find something to trade him for.
Well,
Like
okay,
he's
so
he's a
let's.
sunk asset in my mind.
Yeah, but I mean, okay, so I'm on the wrong row here. Hold on. There we go. Because you guys know I have my big nerdy chart here
Sure,
that we all know
sure.
about.
But from what I remember, if they were to trade him, they wouldn't save a lot, but it wouldn't cost them a lot.
Yeah, okay, so they would lose a little bit of money if they just outright cut him.
Right.
As a trade, a pre-June 1 trade, they would save uh about almost $17 million. If they
Oh, that
traded him
is
as
that
a
is
post,
sizable.
did I say pre? I said pre-June 1.
Yeah.
If they trade him as a post-June 1, they'd save only a little under 6 million, about 5.5 million. So
Mm.
they could save money if they traded him. I don't know why they would though. I mean, none of these guys are proven. I mean,
No.
they do need an actual starter. You know.
I mean, my argument would be if he doesn't fit your scheme, he doesn't like. Is it worth? It's not worth keeping him. Like, you know, I, and I liked Deron Payne. I thought he had a lot of upside, but you just traded John Allen, his brother. So,
But they
you know,
can't just get rid of the start and all the starters in favor of some bunch of no-name guys. Like they going to play Johnny Newton and Javon Kinlaw? Is that an improvement?
I mean, I don't know.
I
Was our
doubt it.
run stopping good last year?
No, but is Javon Kinlaw an improvement?
I
He's
don't
less
know.
money.
It's less. It's a question of does he fit what they want to do? You know.
I don't see how, but they know
Yeah.
better than us.
Yeah. Um. So it's going to be very interesting to see what they do at the defensive line position. I think Wise will probably be a starter as a defensive end for them, even though with his size, he seems bigger than what we're used to. But you kind of said this as well. Like, he's not an every down starter historically, right? Like,
Right.
so it's gonna be, yeah, it's weird. All right, let's the other guys that they signed. Will Harris, that's the big one, right? Because
Hmm.
Jonathan Jones is a backup corner. He's depth. That's great, but
Right.
Harris replacing Chin. Dave, you said you wanted to talk about that one a little.
Yeah, because at first I was kind of scratching my head on it because the initial reports and feedbacks I was getting, especially from was it the I think he was on the Jets prior to the Saints, whichever it was. The fan base had talked about it. Oh, I'm sorry, the Lions. He was on the Lions, and he talked about how he was such a liability his first few years there. But with the Saints, he was much better out there, especially against the run. But what was interesting was his last year. Someone had posted these numbers, and they got it from Pro Football Reference. Last year, Will Harris allowed a completion percentage of 65% against, 11.6 yards per reception, 0 touchdowns, had 1 interception, with a quarterback rating of a 79.4 against. Jeremy Chin gave up a completion percentage of 73.6%, similar yards per completion average. He gave up 7 touchdowns. I know he gave up a few, but I didn't realize it was 7. Had 1 interception. He has a quarterback rating against of 131. And most of every time we've ever talked about Jeremy Chin was always talked about how effective he was in the box, how effective he was, against the run. But Harris here, when you look at his film, he's a heavy hitter. He is very, very good in the box. But apparently, it looks like he is actually a much better coverage safety than what Chin was, which is surprising that Chin got the money that he got, and yet Harris not quite as much. So, which is interesting on that point. Now, last year was Harris's better year of his previous 4 that he had. So, but that was the same thing with Shin. When Shin came to us, his previous years weren't all that great. Then he came to us, and then he kind of launched his or relaunched his career again. So I think we're going to be just fine at this position with Will Harris, with everything that I've seen and what people have been talking about. So I'm a little less concerned about this transition than I was initially when it first happened.
Um, so first of all, while you were talking, I did find some contract data on Will Harris, and so he's got a $3 million cap hit this year. So that 35 I was talking about is about 32 now, but it was along lines of what I had. It's only $1 million over what I'd estimated in my head, so the numbers are still about the same. Um, I'll take your word for it on the passer ratings, and what that says to me is to me he has a reputation as a solid pro. Not great, not terrible, solid pro. And it sounds to me like that's sort of where he fits in there. And maybe the fan base might have had Jeremy Chin a little bit overrated in their head because he made
Yeah,
some impact plays. But if you start talking about value, $3 million cap hit versus much higher cap hit, this is the way to go. And the other thing about Will Harris is he's very versatile.
Mm-hmm.
He's played
hmm,
free safety, strong safety, outside corner. Not to
right.
say they're going to put him at outside corner, but a guy who's that versatile can be useful. And so I think it's a decent signing. I don't think if it's a downgrade, it's not much of a downgrade. I think Jeremy Chin was overrated by the fan base, which is
I
why they
think
let him
that
go.
I think this is a Jeremy Chin signing from last year to this year. So most people don't know what to expect, and once you start playing, you're like, "Oh, we have something there." Of course, we're also comparing it from a history of safeties that where we've had nothing after Sean Taylor. So, I mean, guys like Troy Aikman, yeah, give me Will Harris. You know what I mean? But still,
It's kind of funny you say that because I mean Sean Taylor was a Hall of Fame level player,
yep,
irrespective of his death. Rest in
yes,
peace. And they really did. The team is like paid in a lot of karma for what happened to Sean Taylor.
mm-hmm,
You know, because they
Yeah.
really and truly haven't had a single one worth of Tinker's Dam since then. Not
no,
anywhere close.
Yeah. Yeah. I
And
mean,
it's been 20 years at this point, almost, has it not? I mean, almost.
2004 is when he was drafted. He died in what, 7 or
Yeah,
08?
oh
so
seven,
18,
oh
7,
seven,
18 years. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's been a long time, man. And it is. It has been a long time since they had a good safety, which is kind of sad and depressing.
yeah,
Well, look, I think Harris. Here's the thing. I don't think he's not a long term answer. Obviously, he's 29, so This is like you're signing him for these 2 years, and he's gone after those 2 years.
Yeah, it's just a stopgap 2-year fill-in.
Right.
Right.
Right. Which that's what free agency is for a lot of players. And we're going to talk about the Tunsil thing next. That they traded. Oh, they traded a lot, but they got a franchise left tackle for it. So let's talk about Laramie Tunsil. A 2 and a 4 next year, a 3 and a 7 this year, and you get a Pro Bowl left tackle and a 4th round pick back. That's a big trade. You didn't give up a 1 at least, but you really did solidify the offensive line. And I'll tell you why I do like this trade. Uh, there was nothing in free agency that they could have done to upgrade to this level. There was no free agent really available that they could have gotten that would have been a better left tackle for them. So,
I think this was an outstanding trade. I don't much like Laramie Tunsil's weed mask or whatever. I'm not down with that kind of thing. But irrespective of that, so I kind of had a negative view of him coming out of the draft because it's such a idiotic thing to do, in my view. And you guys can disagree, but I don't really care. But anyway, in
it
terms
was
of
an idiotic thing to do. I don't
It
care,
was.
but you should just
you and
know
I
not to
have
do
different,
that
you and I have different
before
views
you're
on
getting
weed.
drafted.
Yeah.
Don't do stupid things before you're getting drafted.
And Alex and I have radically different views on marijuana use. But
Right.
anyway, but from a player standpoint, this is a home run.
Oh yeah.
It's as much of I would give up, 2 draft picks and to get 2 lesser draft picks back every day of the week. Now,
Right.
so good that I actually wondered what is wrong with the guy. He's been traded twice now. He's been to multiple Pro Bowls.
Mm-hmm.
But he's been traded twice. Is he an attitude problem? I'm in Houston here, folks, the Houston area. And
Right.
so I asked my colleague in the office next door yesterday, okay,
So I'm
what?
assuming he's a Texans fan, not some weird like
He's a massive,
Houstonian
huge
who's a Chargers fan.
Houstonian native. He's a Houston native, lifelong Oilers, Texas fan. And he kind of shrugged his shoulders at it. He's like, he didn't really have a strong visceral reaction either one way or the other to the guy,
Mm.
which I thought was odd. But I really wonder, why would the Texans do this just for a couple draft picks when they don't have a replacement? I don't really get it. It makes me wonder what's wrong with the guy.
Well, so
I would
part
take a
of it is
chance.
they.
To finish up, I'll shut up. I would take a chance on this every day of the week, though.
I would too. For a guy who, granted, he's 30 years old. He'll be so he's a little up there for where
Yeah.
you want to be, but
Right.
uh, you need to protect your franchise quarterback. There's no better move than trading for a stud left tackle.
Yeah, sir, not Brandon Coleman.
Yeah. Yeah. This also does allow them to move him inside or to the other side of the line. Coleman, who you mentioned. So like they now have some options to improve their offensive line. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that too later in the show. Yeah, I was wondering if there was something wrong too, but Houston is kind of up against it cap wise. Some of the talk is that Tunsil may want a much bigger contract next year, and maybe they're just getting ahead of that.
Oh, yeah. So I forgot. I didn't say what the contract was, did I?
No, you didn't.
So he
I was
signed.
subtly trying to put that in there. You didn't need.
Sorry, I was updating my chart as you were talking. So he's in the second year of a 3-year contract extension right now. So he's signed. Washington has him signed through 2026. It was a 3-year, $75 million deal. So his cap hit this year is $21 million, which is a lot. They're not going to cut him, so it's kind of pointless. But he's got a $10 million dead cap hit, and then next year he's got another $21 million cap hit, but no dead cap. So if it just doesn't work, they could get rid of him next year. But so they've got him 2 years, a huge cap hit, but that's also not that big by star left tackle standards. And then so the Pro Bowls, he's been to 2019, 20, 22, 23, and 24. So he's been to 5 Pro Bowls.
Yeah.
So there you go. Sorry, Dave. Go ahead.
Now it's if I recall correctly, when because he was highly drafted by Miami. His first year he was a guard. They moved out to left tackle in his second year, but he wasn't exactly living up to his draft hype at that time. And after he finished his third year, he wanted a new contract. He wanted to be paid among the top tackles. Miami didn't want to pay him that, so that's where they had that blockbuster trade. The Texans gave up, I think, 2 1s and some other draft picks to get him, and then that's where he settled in. He started progressing himself up the ladder, being one of the top tackles in the league, making the Pro Bowl. Now he's regarded as one of the top 5 tackles in the league, and like was mentioned earlier, I think there's a lot of issues with them against the cap, because they also traded one of their top guards to the Eagles as well, just yesterday too as well, in that deal where they got C.J. Gardner-Johnson from them. So it's I think they're definitely doing a lot of shifting with money out there. As far as a problem, as far as a headache, I haven't heard much. Not to say he's an angel, but I don't think he's a cancer either at the same time, because if he was a cancer, we would have heard something. Even the locker room players from Houston might have said something eventually at this point. Nothing ever came out from Miami, or the players he played with there, the coaches, or nothing. So it's a great deal. Like you said, Steve, I would do this deal every day of the week. And twice on Sundays. It's just I'm just kind of flabbergasted that we actually have we actually have a trade for a franchise left tackle that not only benefits us in terms of what we've been looking for since Trent Williams. Now we can take Brandon Coleman, who is a very good offensive lineman, and put him more of his natural position, whether that is right tackle or interior for guard. It's a trade that works out twofold right there. Yeah, we gave up picks, but now we don't have to worry about using a pick to get another offensive lineman that Brandon Coleman can fill now going forward.
Well, they had to get a left tackle. I mean, they didn't have one.
Yeah.
The guys in the comments section in our website, you know who you are, who laughed at me and Dave and Alex for saying Brandon Coleman wasn't a starting left tackle. You're wrong. He wasn't. We were right, of course. And you know who you are if you're not banned. Again, but they had to do something because they've got a star quarterback out there. They can't just take a chance in the draft, especially at 29.
Well,
so this is right.
I think the bigger thing, or equally big deal, the only really good left tackle worth signing in free agency was Staley from the Ravens.
Yeah.
And he re-signed. They didn't let him walk because the Ravens aren't dumb.
Ravens are smart. Yeah.
Yes. They're smart. They're not dumb.
They're smart.
And
New York accent.
Yeah. And Ryan Stanley was in that second tier tackles anyways. He wasn't even among the top group where Tunzel's at right now. So
no.
I mean, we absolutely made out. I mean, the Ravens re-signing Stanley probably, obviously paved the way for this. So that ripple effect benefited us, I think, in the long run. So which worked out very well.
Yeah. And the other fun thing about this is there were no rumors that this was coming, right? This kind of shocked everybody. There was no talk of him being on the trade block. There was nothing.
Yep.
So I give credit to Adam Peters for that. You make a phone call, maybe get lucky sometimes. Call the other 31 GMs and say, what are you looking to do?
The immortal words of Tom Petty. Even the losers get lucky sometimes.
Yeah, but Adam Peters, I don't think is a loser.
No, but it was more fun. I just enjoyed quoting Tom Petty.
Yes, that's fair. I'm happy about this. I still think they need to add one more starter caliber lineman though before this.
Oh, I think so. They look.
Yeah.
I mean, they have a starter at center.
Mm-hmm.
They will get Sam Cosmi back
eventually,
hopefully, but none of the rest of them. They need. Brandon Coleman deserves a shot, so they're going to need 2 guards.
Yeah. I mean, Allegretti's serviceable, but he's not
okay.
Yeah,
not great.
Yeah. You could stand to upgrade.
They need to call Mackay back then. What they need to do, bring him in for the either right or left guard.
Not a bad idea.
Yeah. Well, I technically have a whole article about draft picks who could be good guards. We could get into if we are there any other offseason moves here that we wanted to?
Well, you want to mention we mentioned at the top, but I mean, running back, yeah, they brought back the team from last year. That's not necessarily a good thing.
Right.
So they re-signed McNichols and Chris Rodriguez. He got a tender offer. I mean, yay. I like Chris Rodriguez, but the team doesn't seem to.
Right.
Running back is an open question still, and I'm glad
Well,
to see Marcus Mariota re-signed. The guy was the perfect
Mhm.
backup.
I didn't see what was. Do we know what his salary cap
Well,
hit?
I just learned this, so no, I
Yeah.
don't have his cap. I looked, and his cap hit isn't available yet.
Oh,
So
okay. Okay.
well,
As
right
of
now I think right now J.K. Dobbins is to me is the obvious call. He had a sprained MCL. He's going to be ready to go by camp, and he was the Chargers' offense last year until he had that sprained MCL.
mm,
You know, he pretty much had a resurgence in his career last year. You know, and you put him behind his new revamped offensive line with Jaden Daniels as your quarterback, and with the passing game they have. I think this is a much better situation here than what it was in the Chargers, in terms of having more running lanes opened up. You have more opportunities in the passing game for him. J.K. Dobbins makes way too much sense for me right now just to go get him.
it's not a bad thought.
I mean, it's not a bad thought. I suspect they're going to look in the draft to see if they can find somebody. Uh,
Sure.
Running back is that position. You just draft a guy, you plug him
Yeah.
in, hope it works. Maybe that fourth round pick that we're getting from Houston, that's what they use it for. Because they're not going to do it in the first round, I don't think. But
Now that's almost surefire edge rusher right there now at this point.
Okay,
it,
so I've been editing my spreadsheet while we've
yeah,
been talking, and I eliminated the rule of 51. I updated Will Harris's contract. If you guys keep hearing clicking, this is me working on my spreadsheet
right, right.
the entire show.
Well, what people don't understand is Steve also uses an old 1930s typewriter to do his spreadsheets. That's the loud clicking.
Well, it is, because I'm an old-fashioned person,
Right.
and I'm doing all this manual. I don't why have a spreadsheet when I can do it all manually because I'm good at math. So,
Right.
but I'm at about little under 33 million right now, taking into account the rule of 51, not
Right.
taking into account the draft. So add about another 3.5 to that. So now you're down to 28 maybe
Yeah.
roughly, and that's discounting Eddie Goldman, Dietrich Wise, Jonathan Jones, and a couple million combined with them because the rule of 51 will limit some of their impact.
And,
Kayvon
and
Seymour, same thing, limited. And the big one
in
I missed
Dietrich
is,
Wise's case, we do know he got a $5 million contract, but not the specifics.
yeah, that's
Right.
not, that doesn't tell
Right.
us anything. Um, John Bates, I don't have at all. Um,
John
and
Bates, I was surprised they re-signed.
yeah, I wanted to bring that up. I don't get it. Does he have naked pictures of Josh Harris or something? I don't get it.
We have no blocking tight ends. He's the best one that we have.
By
I
default.
mean, yeah, by default. I mean, you get short yardage opportunities, third and short, fourth and short, where you're inside the goal line. I mean, you're not going to rely on Sinnott and Zach Ertz for that for blocking. So
So
right
you're
there
saying
by
they had no
default, he has to.
choice. That
Hey, they
makes
had
sense. I can
Yeah.
zero
respect
choice,
that.
zero
Yeah.
choice.
I mean, here's the thing, and you guys know I'm going to be doing our draft thing on tight ends. I've started watching some of them. There's a lot of good tight ends in this draft, but Washington just now kind of lacks draft capital, period.
Right.
So I think that plays into it too. They
Can we
realized,
review for everybody what they're down to in terms of draft
yeah,
picks
yeah, if
now?
you have it
I
available.
don't have it, and I'll have to look it up here.
Oh, okay. I just know it's a first, a second, a fourth from Houston, and
Actually, you know what?
then
I may have it actually. Hold on, give me 1 second here. Let's
and
get
then a
back
bunch of
to.
seventh rounders. I think we're down to 5 picks.
Hold on, I'm
Not
trying
a
to get
lot.
back to the right screen here. Believe it or not, this is not one thing I keep track of on a spreadsheet.
You would think that me, the guy who does like 8 mock drafts, would just know it off the top of my head, but I don't.
Yeah, I haven't done a mock draft yet this
Uh,
year. I usually do one.
yeah. Yes. You will do your one mock draft.
Yeah. Okay. So what I think they're down to is the first round pick, which is number
29.
29, second
Yep.
round pick, fourth round, five, six, and then two sevens. So that's 7 picks total, missing a third. That's what it boils down to.
Okay.
Um. I feel like we don't have a 5. I think
There, the list I have here has 5 on it.
okay.
But yeah, but they traded a 5th for Debo Samuel, so
Right. Right. That's that. Regardless, I think
I think this is the
them
right
keeping their
list, though.
1 and their 2 this year is good. I think they're gonna probably have to look to trade back if no one jumps off the page for him at 29.
Well, I mean, I think from a positional standpoint, I think you got edge rusher,
Right.
linebacker, running back, and maybe in order it would be edge rusher 1, running back, and then I think you have to have another linebacker in there, but
I would say
maybe
linebacker. I would also put lineman off any offensive
an
lineman.
offensive lineman, and I'd put linebacker last because they do have 2 starters for this year. So I would say in order to me, in my view, you guys disagree with me. If
No.
you want edge rusher, running back, offensive lineman, but any offensive lineman but left tackle, and then linebacker.
Yeah.
I would put the needs at.
Look.
The only way I'd put running back 1 on that list is if obviously Gentry's not going to get there, but if Amarion Hampton from North Carolina slides down anywhere near 29, you have got to do everything in your power to go and get him because you put him. I mean, when I watch him run, I see a lot of Barkley in his running style. His legs are real thick. He's very instinctive runner. Great hands out of the backfield, and he's not a liability in pass protection either. He's a guy you plug in right away and say, Brian Robinson Jr. We'll see you every now and then on goal line situations. Have fun on the sidelines because that's your future right there.
I I do think there are a couple guys like that at a range positions who I would be very excited by who might fall. And
Mm-hmm.
maybe it's not a position need. There are tight ends out there who I would love to grab, even though we don't really need a tight end. There are, uh, but I did have to write the whole interior line thing up for us, which will be on our website later this
Just
week.
for the record, you volunteered for it, but continue.
I did volunteer for it. I shouldn't say I had to. I got to.
Yes,
Uh,
you had the
I
opportunity
felt
to excel.
bad giving Dave double duty multiple times.
Well, I
So
didn't. Dave signed up for it.
I know he did. All right.
Yes, I did.
So let
But
me
hey, I
go through.
appreciate it though, Alex. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll go through the guys. Now I'm gonna be honest. I focused mostly on guards. We don't need a center, right? We have a center. We have a backup center. I'm not super worried about center.
I
So
mean, the
I'm
point is
mostly
to
focused.
cover it as a whole, but we're Washington centric here.
Right. And at the same time, there is the caveat that a lot of tackles kick into guard. So, Dave already talked about the offensive tackles. We talked about someone who might turn into guards. So I tried not to focus on those types of players either. But all right, there's 3 guys really in this draft class who are going to be late first rounders, early second rounders, it looks like. So these are guys that could fall to Washington if they decided they wanted to grab a guard. The big name is Tyler Booker. He's almost universally looked at as a first round pick. He's out of Alabama, really big guy, 350 pounds. Uh, that's I think one of the major reasons that he is such a highly touted prospect is he's just so much larger than your average guard these days. Really good physical guy. If you're gonna like pound the rock, do that in the run game, not zone runs, obviously with a guy like that. But he'd be great if you want to run a lot of power. Solid blocker overall. Uh, just don't expect him to get downfield a lot on zone runs. He'll try, but he's not fast. The other big name is, or another big name is going to be Donovan Jackson out of Ohio State. Much better pass blocker overall from what I watched in his highlights. Uh, I think he's a very well-rounded guy overall, but pass blocking is going to be his, really his best trait. And then the last first or second round prospect is Gray Zabel, who's out of North Dakota. Uh, anyway, Gray Zabel out of North Dakota. He is kind of he's going to play guard probably, but he plays guard, center. He played left tackle in college, but North Dakota State, you're going to smaller competition. So the only thing you'd be concerned about with him is that, he's a big fish in a small pond right now. How's he going to do in the NFL? I don't know, but very athletic. I think he's probably the most athletic of those three. So if you're looking for like a good zone blocker, I think he'd be fantastic. Um, so then there's a lot more guys who are going to be your day 2, day 3 prospects. I'm just going to highlight a few of them because, I didn't have time to watch all 40 some
Well,
odd.
then you're not doing your job. If you're supposed to study film on every single one of them, Alex. Do
I
it right,
studied a
for
lot of
goodness.
them, just not all 40 of them. And I'm
I
not going to
get.
mention the ones who I watched and I was like, ooh, this guy's bad. Not worth my time.
I guess we'll just cut this segment now to move on to something else. I guess, huh?
If Alex is going to be honest, I mean, look, we all spend about 40 hours doing these columns. If you didn't, you're cheating the audience.
Right.
Although, to be honest, I think I probably do spend that long on the quarterback ones I've done every year.
You probably do.
Yeah, last year I know I did.
I spend a good 5 or 6 hours watching all
Fire,
these. To be honest,
fire.
that's
You spent 30 minutes.
yeah. Better than the 30 minutes I've spent on other ones. Yes. All right. So some of the other guys who I really liked, uh, Monheim out of USC. He's a center guard. I think he played center last year, but he's played guard as well. Probably one of the fastest guys in this whole group. Like his reaction time is just really noticeable. Uh, really good on screenplays. That's something I picked up on with watching him. Like when there's a screen, he knows exactly who he's going to go hit, and he's going to hit him. I like that about him. Uh, Jackson Slater out of Sacramento State, another small school guy, but really athletic, really strong. So like he's got some raw talent there. But again, anytime it's a small school guy, I worry about how they'll do in the NFL. How will they adjust to playing against, better competition? If a guy's from Alabama, he's playing against good.
Well, I think it's particularly
defense.
true when it comes to linemen.
I do too. I think that makes it tough. Tate Ratledge out of Georgia, uh, solid pass blocker. He'd be good in like your power run game. Like he's not a zone blocking type. He's a straight line, hit the guy in front of him type blocker in the run game. Uh, Seth McLaughlin, the center out of Ohio State. I thought I'd mention him because I think he's really highly touted. He'll probably go early, but he's a center. I don't think he's really on Washington's radar, but I thought I should at least mention him. And then one last name that I liked, Miles Frazier out of LSU. He's a right guard. Watch his tape and watch him pick up blitzes and pick up twists and things like that. Like he's really good at if a guy's like running across his face instead of coming right at him. He's really good at picking that kind of stuff off.
I can honestly say I knew every single one of those names you just read out.
Yeah, I'm sure you did. There's a bunch of other guys. I listed probably 20 other guys who will probably be drafted or signed in the NFL. I just didn't feel like writing up something on all of them and watching all of them.
Because you're lazy. Yeah.
Because I am lazy.
Well, that's it, kids. Thank you for teaching us all more than we'd ever want to know about interior offensive lineman,
right.
Alex.
So, by the way, if it were me, I would definitely look at because I think they need to add a guard. And
yes.
Well, they might not do it in the first round. I would definitely look for the kid from North Dakota, Gray Zabel, in the second round. I think he should still be there in that late second round, and I just like good athletic guards. I don't need a big man at guard. I need a guy who can, get downfield on a pull.
Was there somebody from Temple who is going to be your new special person?
If there was someone from Temple, I would have said it's a first round prospect. You know that.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. He'd have been the leading contender at something.
Yeah, least, exactly. Right, Alex? I mean, just like Dave with Penn State.
Yes.
And you with school.
The school that will not be named.
We could always go with your grad school because you don't care about that one as much.
No.
All right.
No. You're right. I don't care about that one as much, but I still don't want to say it
Right. Right. Let's just
because
say it's not the same school as your undergrad.
I'm too easy to find. So
Yeah.
Well, if there's one guy to keep a name on, would be Dylan Fairchild out of Georgia.
Yeah.
He's got a very strong profile, especially in pass protection. Does a very good job of finishing runs. Is a good ball worker. He can get a little high in pad level. But all in all, as a fourth, if we get him right around that fourth round pick range right there, he's the kind of guy that you can really groom. Like if we bring in a Mekhi Becton, that'd be your stopgap to him filling in later on. He's a guy that you can have by midseason ready to fill in for injury and stuff like that. I think he's got a ton of potential right there. So I'd be
you're
the
not
one guy to
gonna
look at.
you're not gonna let Mekhi Becton go, are you?
No, I'm not.
He's
I'm gonna
not.
talk into
Never.
existence.
You're gonna speak truth to
Yes, I
power
am.
on Mekhi Becton.
Yes, I am. Especially if you put him next to Laramie Tunzel. You put him next to him right there. And any weaknesses that Mekhi Becton has, he covers that up. So
Yeah. I mean, look, I don't think. I think when you draft one of these guys, you're not necessarily. I tried to, as best I could, say left guard versus right guard based on what they played in college.
right.
I'll be honest, you can probably switch them. Most of these guys can switch sides at guard. Robbie Duncan years ago told us that's actually hard to do. I know
Yeah,
it is, but these are also pros. Come on.
he did. Robbie did say it was harder to do that than go from guard to tackle.
Right. Right.
I mean,
But
from
Robbie was
us,
also, I think, a natural tackle, so maybe it was easier for him.
Robbie though played almost everything, but
Yeah.
center, if I recall.
Yeah. He did.
Um, you know, from a salary cap perspective, speaking of Mekhi Becton, because he'd be expensive. You
Right.
really have three guys here who make a lot of money. I mean, Laramie Tunsil, Andrew Wiley, and then Sam Cosmi.
Mm-hmm.
21 million and then 10 and 10 and change for the other two. I mean, and from a cap perspective, they're eating up 20% of the cap already. But it is offensive line, it's a big group. I would think they'd probably be willing to add another one in like the 10 million range, probably if they got performance out of it.
Right.
And they could make some cuts here or there, maybe, if they had to. Um, so I think they could probably do it. Do you have a range of what's Mekhi Becton's projected market value? Do you know
You'd
that,
have to
Dave?
look in like SpoTrack or
Yeah,
something
I'm gonna
to.
look it up if Dave didn't have it right off the top of his head.
Off the top of my head, I had him an article last week. I think it was roughly right around the 16
Yeah,
mil
that
range,
might
right
be a
around
little
there.
too rich now that they've got Tunsil.
Well, to be honest with you, if they're willing to bring in Mekhi Becton, I'll be honest with you. You move Coleman out to right tackle and just tell Wiley, hey, we'll see you later.
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
mean,
because
you have
I
to
mean,
save
I know,
some money.
yeah, I know Wiley had a better year last year, but I think a lot of that was due to the quarterback. I think it was more to the quarterback than it was to the actual lineman and scheme itself. To be honest with you,
I
but
for some
that's just
reason
me.
don't see Mekhi Becton listed as a free agent on SpoTrack,
Did
which
he
is
get
weird.
picked up somewhere? Maybe.
Um,
Either I'm looking at the wrong thing. Yeah, they don't, that's weirdly. Oh wait, hold on. I'm looking at the. Hold on. We're doing this on the fly, kids. Something we
Yeah,
probably should
yeah.
have had. Let's see here. Here he is. Okay, so market value. Okay, so they've got him at 10 million for market value. So that fits right into
yeah,
what I was
10 million.
talking
There you
about.
go.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So I think they could probably pull that off. They would have to maybe make a cut or something here and there to do it, but I think they could probably pull it off if they could get him. They could certainly. I mean, to keep within kind of their budget. Is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
and it was Will Freeze from my article. Was closer. It was like 14 million. That's the guy I was
Yeah.
thinking for money wise. But yeah, Becton. I think they need to go after Becton myself.
I
But
think 14 million is a little too much for him. Will
yeah,
Freeze. Yeah. There you
I
go.
think they're just fine with who they have. Just put Wiley in there. I
Just
trust
keep
them.
doing it. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Turnstile,
Andrew Turnstile Wiley. Isn't that his
right?
nickname? The turnstile, don't they have that written on his locker? Andrew, the
Right.
turnstile.
It's an upgrade though from back when we just used a series of traffic cones like 5 years ago.
Yeah, right.
Hey, for a while, if I recall, Mrs. Laribus was communicating with us. Was that not
she,
the case? Remember that?
it might have been the case.
Yeah,
Yes.
we did get communications from Mrs. Laribus.
Yeah, she was not happy with us.
I don't remember what she said, to be honest. I just remember getting messages from her.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, it's because we kept on calling him the Rib.
I don't know. I don't remember. I don't remember.
I don't remember either. Honestly, I'm making it all up as I go along.
I'm not making that up, though. We did hear from her in some capacity. We just never talked about it.
Yeah. All right, Dave. Do you want to? We have a few minutes left. Do you want to talk about the free
We're
agent?
actually, I think we're probably getting close to an hour, but
Yeah.
whip out let's go through it real fast, Dave.
What's
running
that?
backs and
Let me.
speed. We're going to do the speed round of the running backs
Right.
and wide receiver free agents.
Who's left?
Well, let me bring that back up because I thought that we were kind of get blown past that.
Well, we were,
All right,
except
here we
Alex.
go.
Yeah,
I get you.
Alex reminded us that we forgot.
Well, remember,
about
I
it.
don't see the chat, guys. So if you put that in the chat, I didn't see it.
No, but we're at I'm looking at the recording time here, and we're probably getting close.
So as far as running backs, I mentioned J.K. Dobbins earlier. He's I didn't put any projected values for Spotrac on here, unfortunately. But J.K. Dobbins, 26 years old, he averaged 4.6 yards per carry before he sprained his MCL last year. He was a Chargers out. He was a Chargers offense last year. He had a resurgence in his career last year, and I think this is the guy. If they can't get the guy they want in the draft, this is the guy's a good stopgap. Jalen Warren, 26 years old from Pittsburgh, underutilized, but he did average 4.3 yards per carry. So he's, as far as a running game, he's more of a Brian Robinson Jr., but he is a little more of a natural runner than Brian Robinson Jr. His biggest thing was third downs. He was utilized much on he was utilized a lot more on third downs. He's a pretty good pass catching. Was it 2023? He had 61 receptions, so he can catch the ball. Najee Harris already signed. Dowdle just got done signed. Javonte Williams. So other than that, that's kind of the names that kind of top that list right there.
I think J.K. Dobbins is obviously the guy. Now they probably can't afford to sign big name guards and a big name running back. Just keep that in mind.
And the only real receiver that I really wanted them to get on this list that I had, but he signed with Miami, was Nick Westbrook. He was a perfect guy. He was a perfect Noah Brown substitute guy, but he'd be reliable in terms of Noah Brown's always often injured. Outside of that, there's not much for receivers out there. I mean, you got Amari Cooper, be a nice vet to add to the roster. Josh Palmer, 25 years old, a ton of upside, but he just had. Oh, I'm sorry. No, he signed with Buffalo. Yeah. Never mind, he signed. So that's
you got Stephon Diggs as a name, but I mean,
yeah,
I don't even want that name on the roster. You can forget about that one.
So that's Dave's speed round through the and look, they're not signing another wide receiver of note.
Yeah. I think you might see some movement after the draft. Depending, because they'll probably
sign some, but I'm just saying big money ones. That's all.
Actually, I will add one more name now because he was released today. It was Cooper Kupp. I know they had some
Cooper Kupp released today. I didn't know that.
That happened after Dave's article was published.
Yeah. And he's a guy that guys like reporters like Adam Schefter and Ian Rappaport have said that Washington had some interest in apparently. Mm-hmm. Now that he's out there as a free agent, I'll be honest with you, I think he'd be a really nice ad to put him into the slot. A guy who's, I think, as long for the right price anyway. But Cooper Kupp would be an interesting name. I wouldn't mind seeing him.
By the way, because I'm on Spotrac right now, they're listing Kupp's market value at $11 million right now.
The answer is no.
Yeah, no, I'm not doing that for that.
No, not now.
No.
Yeah.
There's some crazy market values though for the receiver market's out of whack. I'm gonna be honest.
All right, you can always drop Andrew Wiley to get Cooper Kupp.
There you go. All right, that should do it for this week's episode, folks. We want to thank you all for listening, and we will be back next week What are we talking about next week? I'm doing
Well,
tight
we're
ends,
done
right?
with free agency, so now we're just onto the draft, and I actually don't have it open here
I'm
right
pretty
now.
sure it's my tight end article because I've been working on that.
Yes, it is tight ends.
Yes, and I've been watching a lot more tight ends because who
50
doesn't love
hours.
watching tight ends?
I'm sure you've been watching a lot of tight ends, Alex.
Alex is studying tight ends intently.
What's that website? It starts with a P. Oh, never mind. Different website.
Different thing entirely. This is a family
All right,
show.
guys. We'll see you all next week.
Later.